There are numerous methods to control your opponent's Ember while playing KeyForge, such as stealing or capturing. But what about straight up key control, actually forcing your opponent to lose entire keys they've already forged? There happen to be a few cards out there that actually unforge keys, and today we'll be analyzing these cards and attempting to determine if unforging keys is actually a viable strategy in the long run, or if it's nothing more than useless mechanic that simply clogs up the decks it appears in. As of Dark Tidings, there are currently 4 cards in the game that unforge keys, 3 belonging to House Dis and 1 belonging to House Logos. Let's start by taking a look at these 4 cards in more detail, then we'll analyze the mechanic itself. First is Keyhammer, printed in only one set, Call of the Archons. It reads, if your opponent forged a key on their previous turn, unforge it. Your opponent gains 6 Ember. The problem with this card is that your opponent will gain that 6 Ember when you play it, whether they forged a key on their previous turn or not. I actually made that mistake on TCO myself once, giving my opponent 6 free Ember by failing to realize that happens either way. That was a feels bad moment to be sure. In Mass Mutation, Keyhammer was fixed so that this didn't happen anymore, and it showed up in the form of Break Key, which reads, if your opponent has more forged keys than you, unforge an opponent's key. If you unforge an opponent's key this way, your opponent gains 6 Ember. Not only did Break Key add a fair and balanced condition, making it so you could only get the full effect when you're falling behind in keys, but it also only gave the opponent Ember if their key was unforged with Break Key. That way you could play it for the bonus Ember free of risk, unlike Keyhammer, which I feel just got discarded more often than not. Mass Mutation also introduced another unforging card, this time in the form of a creature that added a unique twist to the way it all works. This card is Turnkey, a 2-power creature that reads play, unforge an opponent's key. If you do, when Turnkey leaves play, your opponent forges a key at no cost. This card is somehow both incredibly scary and barely a threat at the same time. If Turnkey is adequately protected, it can be quite some time before the victim of Turnkey's effect gets to reforge their key. However, sometimes that can play to their advantage. If they properly time things, they could potentially forge their second key, then kill Turnkey to immediately forge their third for free, leading to an unstoppable win. Turnkey is a little risky for that reason, although can certainly be a nuisance. And finally, Dark Tidings introduced one final card to unforge keys with, but it only works with 3 other cards in play simultaneously. This card is Groundbreaking Discovery, which always comes with a copy of Reckless Experimentation, Rooftop Laboratory, and Dr. Varoctor, and reads, if you control Dr. Varoctor, Rooftop Laboratory, and Reckless Experimentation, destroy each card in play, unforge an opponent's key, and purge Groundbreaking Discovery. This is an exceptionally destructive card, rivaled only by others such as Strange Gizmo or the Big One, and is a true key unforger, seeing as the opponent isn't given any way to reforge that key once Groundbreaking Discovery is played. With Break Key and Keyhammer, the opponent was reimbursed with 6 Ember. With Turnkey, the opponent just had to destroy him to reforge, but with Groundbreaking Discovery, the opponent practically has to forge 4 keys in order to win. Clearly though, this card is balanced out by the fact that you need to have 3 other cards all on the field at the same time when you play it for its full effect to go off. Overall, Groundbreaking Discovery has an undeniably explosive effect, but falls short much of the time because of the setup required for it to bear any sort of meaningful fruit. So now that we've covered the 4 cards that actually unforge keys, now we can look at the concept of unforging keys as a whole and how it fits into the broader spectrum of KeyForge as a game. The question is unforging keys really worth it in the long run? Early in the game's history, it really seemed to be nothing more than a mechanic that could potentially stall the opponent for a turn. I say this because your opponent was given 6 Ember upon the unforging of their key, pretty much guaranteeing them the ability to forge again on their next turn. Keyhammer did have its combo pieces, however, that could potentially stall the opponent for longer than that and nullify the benefits of the 6 Ember reimbursement. A couple examples are Lash Your Broken Dreams, Charette, or even Drumble. The point is, Keyhammer, and the general concept of unforging keys, is solely beneficial for stalling your opponent out for a turn or 2. In some cases, this can be game-changing, and can lead to your ultimate victory, but I feel that this is the exception rather than the rule. 90% of the time, this sort of stalling may put you ahead in the long run by a little, but not by much. I think this is a common theme that runs throughout most cards that unforge keys. It's really just more of a stall tactic than anything else. We see this in Break Key as well, and it's emphasized in the fact that the opponent must have more forged keys than you in order for its full effect to take place. Otherwise, it's not good for anything but its bonus Ember. Played properly, this card can certainly help you catch up, and just like Keyhammer, Break Key also has its combo pieces that can enhance its utility. You could use Infernus, Drekker, any of the Fiend creatures, Anguish, Waking Nightmare, or if you're lucky enough, a couple of the Sins to prolong Break Key's effect. Break Key and Key Hammer function very similarly, and really rely on other cards that combo with it to make it any sort of viable comeback strategy. Honestly, I've never seen any of these cards be the reason someone comes back from the brink to steal a victory. As a stall mechanic, I don't think Unforging Keys is quite as powerful as something such as Steal or Capture, and I think a big reason for this is because it's not nearly as consistent. There are only 4 cards in the game that actually unforge keys, and beyond that they're oftentimes pretty situational, with the full effect only going off when certain conditions are met. On the other hand, there are hundreds of cards that steal or capture or raise key cost or destroy Ember that can be called upon turn after turn and frequently show up in multiples within decks. Stealing and capturing are consistent and recurable effects that can prevent forward progress and the forging of keys turn after turn after turn. Unforging Keys does not offer this same consistency. We even see this lack of consistency in what might be the best of these Unforging cards, Groundbreaking Discovery. When played to its fullest potential, with all its conditions being met, you've essentially forced the opponent to forge 4 keys in order to win, and that could be devastating, especially for slower decks. But then, Groundbreaking Discovery gets purged, never to be seen again. Even Turnkey falls to inconsistency. Best case scenario, you protect it well enough that the opponent never gets around to destroying it, and you force them into a Groundbreaking Discovery type of situation where they've got to forge extra keys to win. But 9 times out of 10, it'll get destroyed pretty quickly, seeing as the opponent will be prioritizing its destruction, and as I outlined before, sometimes this can be for the worse. A situation in which I could see Turnkey being really annoying is if you have ways to recur it, such as with Stirring Grave or Grim Reminder, and I think this could go for any of the Unforging cards talked about so far, with the exception of Groundbreaking Discovery. In the end though, I can certainly understand why these cards have such immense drawbacks. Unforging Keys as a concept on its own is incredibly strong, and I mean incredibly strong. If these cards didn't have anything to balance them out, and simply said, unforge an opponent's key, that would bend the game so much it would probably break. Simply undoing multiple turns worth of strategic gameplay just by playing a single card would be far too busted of an effect, rendering much of the game meaningless. So, although the Unforging cards perhaps aren't quite as potent or consistent as we'd like them to be, perhaps that's for the best. The game of KeyForge simply wouldn't be the same if they were much stronger than they are now. So, those are my thoughts on Unforging Keys as a mechanic within KeyForge. I thought it would be interesting to bring up this topic of discussion. It's an interesting one to be sure, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, and any insights or ideas you might have. Do you want to see it brought back for future sets like Winds of Exchange, or would you rather see something different to replace it? Let me know down in the comments, and thank you all so much for watching. I can't wait to see you all again in the next one. See you later.